Hi everyone. I hope you guys don't mind that I'll just get started, I reckon. Let me put my timer on. We're going to keep it a casual affair, and then at the end, if there's any questions that you guys might want to have, by all means, I'm available. All right. I want to just discuss everything there is that you need to know about the whole offshore outsourcing industry. It's a big industry. It's been founded the company in 2007, and I think since around 2013, 14, it really exploded. We've estimated that around about 35% of all SMEs in Australia are currently utilizing some offshore talent in one way or another, and that's quite significant. So we'll be covering off in this webinar, everything you need to understand. How do you decide on the type of staff to hire? I've got a little formula that I want to share with you guys. The overall landscape in the Philippines. Do you hire via an agency? Do you hire direct? What does that all mean? Home base, office base? We'll cover those kind of questions. We're going to a deep dive into recruitment, because that's where it all starts, guys. Because if you get recruitment right, the placement, the right team fit, everything else works much more easier. You have a team member that is a real colleague that can help advance or deliver on the productivity and processes you want. You get that wrong, and it's going to be a very taxing experience on your time, on your energy, on your effort, and you're going to make all that investment, and it may not work because the staff might resign on you. You might fire them because they're not, you're spoon feeding them all the way. So that's a big deal. So we'll cover a lot about that, about how do you get that, what's involved to get that right. Because once you get that right, then you've got a real team member that you could progress forward with. And in addition to that, we'll cover off a few more other topics. So in a nutshell, I just want to let you know that offshoring is not something that's taking away jobs, okay? It's a very powerful business solution because it strengthens your business. It allows you to become a better taxpayer, a stronger business. And what we've noticed in 14 years is that our clients who start with offshore teams and use offshore teams in their back office stuff or to help them grow their businesses and strengthen their business to support their customers more, eventually scale locally, eventually hire more locally is what we've learned, because that's what happens when you become a stronger business. At some roles, you always want to have a fusion of offshore talent, and that's what most businesses are doing at the moment, as well as local. It doesn't mean it's a complete elimination of local talent. It just means there's a shift. There's certain roles that you go like, why do I have to pay $50 an hour for some role that I know it can be easily done at $10 an hour, just as efficiently, just as good? So that's what outsourcing, the offshoring is all about. Now, remember, we're not going to talk about freelancing. Freelancing is a whole other topic. Freelancing is what you use for projects, or when you want a task done, it's task output based. See offshore remote staffing as something that you hire a team member, like you would consider hiring an employee locally, but it's much more feasible to do it offshore these days in our current economy. So everyone understands the cost differentiation. It's two scales of economy of Australian dollar versus the Philippine peso. I mean, the living standards and the cost of living here versus the living standards and costs of the Philippine peso and stuff in the Philippines. So there's a big labor arbitrage opportunity because of these two different economic areas. So that's the advantage, how you save money. You have a large access to talent pool. We all know that. We'll go into that as well. I'll cover some details about just how much talent there really is available online. But most importantly, what we're talking about here is that you don't have to trade your quality standards. I mean, you can still meet quality standards that surprise you, that you'll think you've won lottery when we get it right. It's incredible. So again, overall, this whole exercise is about helping your businesses get stronger, and you can become more productive. You can help finally get a team member for you to do things and train them up, and then for you to turn around knowing that you're finally, your business is advancing, you've got the support you need, or you've got the ability that you need to grow much more cost effectively. Okay, so other than it being a massive industry, here's a bit of a background. Just April this year, there were 70,941 remote jobs advertised across the Philippines. That's how popular it's becoming. This is on the job boards that are across the country there. There's quite a lot of them. 49% of those candidates, thanks to COVID, prefer to continue working remotely. We've estimated around 5 million remote job applicants are out there in the Philippines actively looking right now. That's a lot of talent. And yes, the whole world is going there sourcing talent from there at the moment. It's certainly one of the hot talent pools of the world. 10% of the whole outsourcing industry, of that $76 billion, is going to the Philippines from around the world. The cultural compatibilities are fantastic. If anyone knows, if anyone has worked with a Filipino nanny, or you go to a hospital, the nurses and stuff, they're very, very good in English. They just got a great personality. So as I mentioned, a lot of the Filipinos are fluent in English, 70%. Now, fluent, we're going to be careful. This is one of the things we do about recruitment. Fluent, just because they speak English doesn't necessarily mean they comprehend English very well. And so that's something you have to always look out for. And yes, literacy rates are very high because the whole landscape there is everything from the commerce, from government to education to law, it's all in English. The other thing that you need to know when it comes to hiring and working with Filipinos abroad is that they're very family oriented, they're codependent on each other as well. So if you hire a staff member and your staff member is perfectly fine doing whatever they're doing at their home, but there's a sister that runs over somebody or gets into some accident, it's now a family problem. And be mindful that you have to be tolerant that they may have to leave their job, their post temporarily, or they'll have to log out a few hours here and there, take care of family matters. Because unlike in Australia, where we've got a government and a democracy that works, down there, it's kind of each for their own. It's the Wild West. So family members really got to look out for other family members. The time zone, I just want to mention, it's awesome. So now there's a 2-hour time zone difference. Come October, when daylight savings hits, it's going to be 3 hours. The Filipino people are generally fine to start at 6 a.m. when it's 9 a.m. here in daylight savings, or 7 a.m. when it's 9 a.m. here in Australia. It's very important that they follow your time zone so that you could collaborate, so that you could optimize and advance their productivity and capabilities. You can't do that effectively on different time zones. When you're on the same time zone, that's a serious good start. So let's discuss now, what staff you should hire. I've made this very simple formula, a very simple calculation. I mean, this is how I go about doing it sometimes. I mean, when we get confused regarding how do we split certain roles for clients, we just note down the tasks. We note down the duration of each task, the frequency of each task for the day. Then for the week, we sum it up for the week for the hours to get a feel. And then we assess whether some of these roles can be bundled up together. And then we could come up with roles. Like, for example, over here, as we've got a writer here that's writing activities that require 2 hours an article, 2 hours, 2 articles a day. So there's 10 articles for the week. It's 20 hours for the week. And now that is a part-time job on its own. And the writer there, the qualifications, we just sum it up as you need a writer, obviously a blog SEO kind of writer. And the other roles, so here, sorting out some files and responding to occasional customer support chat and email inquiries. If the sorting out of files is around 2 hours, it's quite intensive. It happens once a day. And then on occasion, maybe your business has 4 inquiries a day, or each inquiry needs to be entertained by about generally 25 minutes. You round it off to about 20.4 hours again, and that's another part-time person for, say, a customer support role. A customer support person that would be informed and purposely hired to do some of the administrative work as well. Like the admin work, I wouldn't hire an administrator or somebody that does admin to do customer support. I'll do more like a customer support person that's willing to do some admin work. Now, remember, when we do this breakdown of roles and tasks and things, you can't expect to go wide in somebody in the Philippines. Everyone wants a super VA. Okay, they're hard to find. They exist. They're hard to find. Everyone wants them who can do front-end development, HTML stuff, code, writing, PPC, and the rest of it. I mean, and customer support. I mean, they're out there, but wow, normally, when you go too wide, your chances of finding it is slim. But more importantly, even if you found it, your quality of talent is compromised. They're going to be stretched in certain areas, capable in some, not capable in others. So we'll carry on. So offshore, the offshore landscape. So in a nutshell, if you're hiring small teams, like you're hiring 1 to 10 people. Now, I've got experience hiring a team remotely. We founded the company remotely for the first 4 years. Then 9 years we were in the office. We had a 1,000 square foot office, and we were running a team of our 80 people, as well as a client team of about 94. So we've got experience running an office and running the operation remotely. So we're one of these rare people that started remotely, went to an office, and now we are remote again since COVID. And thank God we're not going back in the office. So if you've got a team and you want to hire a team, seriously, there are advantages to the office. You could onboard faster, you could steer the ship easier in directions. Colleagues can help standardize work production and capability much more easily. So there's a lot of qualities in that respect. But what we've done when it comes to remote is we help clients, heaps of them, start off with 1 or 2 or 3, then they eventually get to 5 or 6, then they get to 10 to 11, and then there's plenty that we've helped grow to about 30. It's around when they get to about 30 remote team that they do consider, now, should we transition to the office? Should we perhaps set up an operation there and like literally set up a company and everything else? So there's all those things. So now here we are. Now, the downside of, I just gave you a bit of an overview of hiring remotely and from an an office team. Now I just want to give you a quick discussion about something that people often think that they could just simply do. Hiring directly. What's interesting about hiring directly is that there's a lot of opportunities at the moment to do so right now, more than ever before. There is a lot of websites out there that you could go source talent. You could go on job sites like Job Street in the Philippines and place ads and everything else, or market centers. That there's plenty of them that exist right now. Your challenges are multiple. First, other than the fact that candidates are not vetted, we've discovered from our clients, we've serviced over 3,000 clients, and we've done some surveys that on average, when they hire people directly, it takes them about 4 goes, meaning they hire somebody, they go through the whole screening, recruiting process, they hire somebody, they onboard them, they start, then something goes wrong, then they have to start again and again and again. It takes them about 4 goes to get a relationship that's somehow complementary and a good fit, on average. Doesn't mean you don't get it right on the first go either. Sometimes you can, but that's the average. There's no safeguards. Unlike Australia, there's no award rates. So there's always, we've calculated roughly there's a markup of about 40%. So the markup, why am I sharing about this markup? You have to be mindful that when you hire staff directly, even though it sounds appealing, the truth is, are you hiring the same caliber of talent that you are hiring from an agency? No. Just because an agency might sell somebody at $10 an hour and you might hire somebody at $10 an hour directly, you got to understand that are you really paying that fee? Is that the real market rate for that person? You're not aware of the market rate and the landscape. You're not aware of the movement. You're just making your own assessments. And these individuals, when they work with foreigners, jack up their prices. Do you call the previous employers to understand what they were getting paid before, what was their duties versus what you've got them doing now? So you got to be mindful. Why is that important? It's because a lot of people who may have resistance to want to go through an agency don't understand that they're technically paying the same service fees going directly without all the benefits because they're getting a markup when they're not knowing it. The other thing is when I speak to people in the Philippines, like remote working communities and stuff, a lot of people who come to me after stage to say, Chris, I wish there's an agency like yourself that my client could have worked with. I go, why? Well, because my client is a lovely person. He pays me all the time on time and all that stuff. But sometimes there's disputes. And sometimes there's something, and I feel I don't want to confront them. I don't feel comfortable getting a loan for my car. I can't get a visa because I'm not recognized as a valid employee in the country. I can't get credit cards. There's all these insecurities that they live with. Now, as an Australian who doesn't have a Philippine company hiring somebody directly, without you knowing it, you are causing anxieties for the staff. They have anxieties. Yeah, they're happy to get more money up front from you directly. They say, oh yeah, that's great. I'm getting paid more. That's fine. It's a good temporary solution. But when you find a really good talent that's really helping you advance your business and helping your business get stronger, trust me, you want to look after that talent because right now there's a talent war and it doesn't take much for that talent to all of a sudden be snatched or to jump to an opportunity, especially to another remote working job right now, where it's a hot competition right now. Everyone's trying to get remote talent. Now, why would you want to hire from an agency? So overall, it's about this. It's about avoiding that costly mistake of putting the wrong person in the wrong position. We've all done it, me included. Oh, too many times. I don't know. I'm such a people person. Anyway, I still fall for I still make the mistake. But now I've got a lot of tools and other technologies that I use up my sleeve to make sure I place the right people in the right roles. That's the biggest thing. I mean, if that's a really important thing for you, then that's a good enough reason to go for an agency right there, on top of many other reasons that I'll speak about. But if that's not a big deal, like let's say you're hiring somebody that's like data entry, it's easy, you can onboard them really easily, you can train them up really easily, and you don't really need them around necessarily. Like your business ain't going to collapse or it's not going to be affected if they disappear on you straight away. You can easily get them replaced as well. If that's the circumstances, then yeah, it's worth trying to hire them directly. Why not? I mean, if they're easily for those conditions. But if you need to train them and work with them really hard to get them to a certain standard, and you've really worked hard to find that certain talent with that industry experience and those kind of communication, team fit abilities, if you've done all that work, the purpose is you want them to hang around. And so if you're going to make that investment, maybe training them, spending $4,000 here and there in some kind of trainings, you'd rather go for an agency because the agencies will not only help you professionalize the relationship through either employment or self-employment or contract. Agencies have a much more selective criteria when they're onboarding people. They know what to look out for. They do English skill assessment tests to understand, do they really comprehend? They might sound really good, but do they really comprehend? They do a lot of other things. And also, once the relationship is onboarded, there's a lot of work that happens in the background to sustain trust, because the Filipinos, they're non-confrontational. So if they have any questions and stuff, or they've got any concerns, they're not going to go to the big white man, big boss woman. They're not going to go directly to you. They're too shy. They're too nervous. They're always going to say, yes, sir, sure. They might raise something if you're lucky, but you have to be really mindful to listen to the small details. I encourage webcam all the time, especially in new relationships. You got to really feel it out because they're not going to be openly sharing things to you. You be mindful of that. I want to talk about the two worries as well, why agencies help. So employers worry that their work's not getting done. They're working from home. Are they bloody watching Netflix? Are they even doing anything? They've got children on their laps? What are these people doing? That's the worry from a client's point of view. And the worry from the contractor's point of view is, am I even going to get paid? If they're living often paycheck to paycheck, trust me, that anxiety is huge. And if there's all these financial pressures and obligations in the Philippines, and often the people we hire are breadwinners, trust me, these anxieties are huge. And so agencies often make sure that payroll is done properly, on time, directly into their bank account. We protect them from the currency inflations. We pay them directly in pesos. It's not just my agency, but every other agency does that, because a currency fluctuation from a client's point of view might represent $10, $50 difference in your invoice, whereas on a small fluctuations, trust me, it can be a lot bigger on a bigger fluctuation. But on the Filipino side, that small fluctuation can represent a whole days of work. It's a big deal. So I'll carry on. Other than the administrative stuff, which is a real nightmare to do in the Philippines, especially right now because of COVID, 50% of all the Philippine government agencies are not open. Or if they are open, they're not allowing people inside. And so the administration, it's not like in Australia where everything's easy and online. It's a nightmare over there. So administering these processes is very, very taxing. So we've got here, like some of these, like many of the agencies like ourselves, we do tax withholdings. SSS is like a super, we contribute towards that. Phil Health is like a Medicare, because they've got to pay for that benefit. Buggy Pig thing is like a government micro loan ability. So they're paying to that, they can get these micro loans for home deposits and stuff. So the likelihood of you hiring a long-term staff via an agency is far likely compared to doing it yourself, because there's not enough safeguard between you and somebody doing it yourself. Whereas with an agency, for example, we've got people since we've started still working with the same client. Well, we've got dozens and dozens of relationships that have lasted over 10 years, over a decade, working with the same client, same staff. So this is because of the whole structure and landscape that happens with the administration looking after the people, the day-to-day operations of the HR things. The Filipino can come to another Filipino to vet or to share their concerns, and there's another body there, customer support representative, that could kind of help resolve any issues between yourself and the staff. Let's say you have an issue for staff, you can bring it to your account manager to diplomatically say it better to the staff in terms of their performance, or to help them out. You're not alone, basically. Anyway, the other thing, like larger companies come to us sometimes, mostly because they want to reduce their legal liabilities. Because in the Philippines, to contract people there, you can. To hire people, you have to be a Filipino company, like as in to employ them. To do all that administrative stuff, again, there's labor laws in the Philippines that are so pro-labor, it's crazy. Anyone can go to a labor court and just make any accusation against you, and you have to defend it to prove yourself innocent. They then have to defend it. They then have to as you defend, they then will need to make their claim and provide evidence of their claim. But at the beginning, they don't need to provide any evidence. So the whole, it's a rot. But anyway, that's what happens. That's the biggest fear of large companies, and why they don't necessarily want to set up operations in the Philippines, because of that liability. And the other liabilities, it's very difficult doing business there, running a company there. It's like out of 200 countries, it's like down there at 168 most difficult kind of business landscape for doing business, just because of everything's on paper and the administration. But let me move on. So the other advantage using recruitment companies is or agencies, is that there's no obligation until you found somebody. So all that recruitment is made upfront by the agencies, because I mean, some agencies like office-based agencies charge a setup fee, which I think is a shame, because I love the idea of, let us prove that we find you the right talent. Let us make that first investment in this relationship to get you who you want. And only when you've interviewed and you're confident to say, okay, I want to hire this person, will the engagement commence. So there's no risk. we understand you're hiring, you're entrusting somebody from halfway around the world to take care of something that you might not be able to sleep well at night. It's a serious responsibility. It's not just about non-mission skilled roles. Yes, you could also do mission critical roles. It's fine. Uh, Remember, if you're hiring the right talent, purpose fit for your role with the right experiences, the right background, capabilities, why can't you count on them? If you don't want to count on them, you're not going all in. You're being too reserved, and you're not going to have a competitive advantage because you're not going to really achieve the productivity advancements that you hope to achieve. So don't be shy. Go hard in terms of your needs, in terms of your expectations. Try have them met. It's all obligation free. Anyway, so I want to also mention the other thing about recruitment, which is very important, which is the awesome thing about agencies and BPO companies in general, like ourselves. We help you with the subconscious bias stuff. We all have it. When we interview somebody, if they're similar to us or there's some commonality, we just have a bias straight away that we like them. Well, are we really thinking properly? The other thing too is that we misread people. We don't understand how to read the Filipino people, their work experiences properly. Whereas a lot of agencies, actually, I'm not aware of other agencies, but I know what we do is we actually listen in on the interview. We're there with you. And then after the interview, we kind of like, we're there to, you can bounce ideas. We both talk about the interview you just had. We discuss, what are the things you like, what you didn't like, what are the things you didn't see? We bring to your attention. Yeah, but if you think that, I think, watch out for this warning flag. So you've got somebody, that's a really big deal. A lot of clients love that because they say, you know what, I'm not sure who I'm hiring. I'm not sure if I'm hiring right, but my God, was it such a relief talking to somebody about it because I feel more confident that I'm making the right decision. And that's what it's all about. So in addition to hiring the right person, which is this is like 90% of the work, there's background checks, of course, there's assessments. These days, I've invested like $40,000 recently in doing behavioral and cognitive assessments. Now, what's interesting with that is that if you want to complete a job assessment, and if you want to do a behavioral assessment, then our team, for example, can when they do the behavioral and cognitive assessments of the contractors, we can try to find with our technology and science today, we got data up our sleeve now that we can do a team fit that works. We can find talent that's more suitable for your work style and your kind of ways, your behavior, your conduct. We could find people that can complement that. So another thing we do is obviously job satisfaction. We ask questions, we assess their careers. Salary, we know what the going rates are. We know when people are trying to be too ambitious, we go, come on, man, tone it down. How can you justify a 20% pay increase from your last job to this new job? The work is pretty much the same. Unless you've achieved something really spectacular with your other job, fair enough. But if you haven't done something outstanding, you haven't done any proof for us, no awards or whatever it is, then you don't justify that increased pay. We do all that for you in the background to make sure you're getting people at the right price. So screening is also still happening. I'm still on recruitment here. We screen on, in addition to the candidate, we understand if, like before COVID, did they have any application visas to go in Canada or America? Because there's no point hiring somebody if they're going to just leave you 3 months from now because they're going overseas somewhere. Family, pregnancy stuff. We check their home work environment. How reliable is their environment? Do they have really an environment where this is a codependent society, as I mentioned, that may not have a private room to work from, but it's okay if they're working from a living area or somewhere where the rest of the family are. But so long as it's a corner where it's not going to get distracted, because the last thing you want to do is be like under a staircase with the family right in the middle of a living room where you cannot focus, where you cannot build momentum. It's doomed. It's doomed from day one. So we prevent those things. We also understand people who have got really a lot of financial pressures or circumstances. Again, all of these things matter. I put here isolation issues. That's really for some of these young people, maybe that are away from home. In the Philippines, a lot of the young people often travel to their provinces to be with family. if they're in the Philippines, Manila, to work on jobs. But because of COVID and stuff, and because it's harder now to travel, most of them have moved back to their provinces. So here we go, preparation. So it's one thing to hire somebody, but we're going to be prepared. Now, we're going to be prepared that while we're sourcing for them, that you should be preparing for them to work with them. Now, one of the things, these are little tips I've got. When you onboard somebody, for the first week or two, I recommend have Zoom going live constantly. Have them mute, you guys work together, and then have them there so you have this like working relationship happening virtually. You can see them, they can see you, and more importantly, they can unmute themselves and ask you a question anytime. Because remember, they don't want to bother you. They're non-confrontational. They don't want to look stupid. But you know what? While they're in the middle of it, that's your best chance to get them to ask you a question. So do live Zoom all day for the first few weeks. Be prepared for that. I'm just telling you that for you and your managers. Be prepared for that. Provide plenty of practice opportunities. You know, the biggest thing we all make a mistake on, and so do I. We hire people, we go through all this effort, we get them working, we invest in all this training and onboarding, and then we forget to provide practice opportunities for them. Like a month or two from now, they may have forgotten it, or you may have taught them something about something that they haven't had a chance to do for like 6 weeks. But it's important. So be mindful, if there's anything that you're training them at the beginning for that is important, that may not necessarily happen frequently, provide practice opportunities. This is something that I'm always guilty of myself, establishing clear goals, matrix, milestones, all this stuff. We've got to be clear with it. 80% of the Philippine population is process orientated. They want to be led. They want to be told that what to do. They feel safer operating within boundaries. Therefore, you need to game up. You need to provide some clear boundaries, processes, steps, and all those kind of things. So outcomes, again, is what I alluded to a moment ago, but one-on-one meetings, again, very important. You know, if you haven't spoken to them in a one-on-one way for a while, you know, they're going to feel like out of touch. They're going to feel like, where do I stand in the company? So to get rid of that nagging worry or anxiety of the remote worker, sometimes just touch base and check in. It's necessary. How often do you need to do it? I like to do it every other day. Yeah, I've got a big team, so I don't do it, but I've got my managers that do it. So, but the people I directly work with, yeah, I check in every now and then. I don't have to have Zoom meetings all the time with them face to face, but a conversation is necessary. Sometimes I do Zoom, and that goes a long way. Again, document everything. So that's for preparation. Now, we're up to this last bit here about ongoing support. I want to talk about the challenges right now and why you need ongoing support. It all starts with communication, guys. Remotely working, that's a challenge right there. If somebody's saying silent if they're being silent on you, you don't assume for 1 second that everything's okay. Silence is the worst thing when it comes to a remote working landscape. So communication, you get communication right in remote working, you'll be able to mature that relationship. So you both will be able to establish trust. You'll be able to advance each other, almost feel each other out. And you will be able to achieve a company culture, and you will be able to achieve productivity and at a high standard. But it all starts with communication. You've got to get communication right. If you hire somebody, and yes, at the beginning, be patient. Maybe the first week or two, be patient. Like, they might not understand your accent. You might talk too fast. They might find you too confrontational. I don't know. But you two are building a relationship. So get used to that idea at the beginning that they're going to have to get familiar with your tone of voice, how you talk and stuff. So once that's passed, then you got to make sure that they're understanding you. If that first hurdle is overcome, then you're safe to make that investment further in that relationship. Because if you cannot overcome communication comprehension properly, 4 months from now, you're going to end up terminating that staff. It ain't going to work for you. You're going to get frustrated. You're just going to be like, oh man, I told them that already. What, they missed it? There's all this stuff that you're just going to you're going to get frustrated with. The other thing you get frustrated with if you don't set deadlines to things, you're going to find yourself that the stuff's always going to come to you, and you always have to spoon feed them. Here, do this next. Here, do this next. I like to throw things sometimes that people want to understand something. Hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is the goal. Hey, you know what? You know how I've done it. Why don't you apply it yourself? Why don't you give it a go? I love them to make that mistake and for them to know that they can come to me and show me what they're doing and let us help them gain that confidence that they could do it. You see, they can own the decision. They can make those decisions for themselves. Whatever you do, try to avoid having these people become spoon feeders. So easy for them because you're in the Philippines, foreigners are looked up to. You're the almighty God boss, you know it all. So it's so easy for them to always go up to you. But that's not the purpose. Our purpose as employers is to grow people. We want to help them become all that they can be. And the only way we can do that is often to remove their safety net and literally provide them enough of a background and say, hey, man, apply yourself. I need to see the initiative you take. I need to see the decisions that you make. That's very important, guys, to grow your talent. Don't fall in the trap of spoon feeding. And the biggest way I factor that in is, as I said, deadlines. I provide a deadline to somebody. If they can't deliver on it, it's an opportunity for me to check in on their work. I go, okay, now, this is what I wanted to work. Let's see what you've done. Oh my God, is that all you've done? Is that all you've done? There's a problem right there. Then you'll have a conversation. You go, listen, look, why don't you come to me? When you don't understand something, you got to come to me. And again, what am I giving you an example of? I'm giving you an example of communication, the working communication between you and your staff member. These are the things you got to be mindful of. I'm curious. Inquisitiveness. I want to let you know that majority of the Filipino people, 80% of them, would prefer to be trained to follow a process. Just tell me what to do, sir. And then as time goes on, maybe 3-4 months later, they'll apply themselves a little bit more and a little bit more. 20% though are game to apply themselves, game to be challenged, game to grow. They're hungry. They want initiative. They want to apply their initiatives actually. So again, it's an 80-20 rule. I'm giving you background. Culturally, another thing, Filipinos, again, I've mentioned that, non-confrontational. What is here? When certain things happen, they fall apart around you. Instead, get to the point. Yeah, one of the frustrating things you got to be careful of is that the Filipino people will not necessarily bring problems to you. Yes, it's an unfortunate thing. It takes a while for that trust and security of that relationship to form for them to want to collaborate and speak up about a problem to you. They see problems, but they won't bring it up. Again, it's this cultural thing. This is one of the cultural things that you have to overcome, in addition to communication. But once you've got communication right, you can get on top of this. But the good news is, when issues do happen, you have to allow them permission, reward them. I don't know, reward them to bring it to you, whatever it is. Hey, our website's down. Thank you for letting me know. Hey, our client's complaining. Thank you for letting me know. I don't know. Like, it's really a big deal. I'm just letting you know. It's a big deal. Don't think a problem is going to be presented to you just because it's obvious. It ain't going to happen. I've got here, like, when you do, unclear expectations, if you're going to be vague, they can't read your mind, guys. If you're going to say do this, then after 20 minutes of the explanation, you're going to say do that. They might not follow you. They may not have understood you, but guess what? They're going to say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, sure. So another danger, guys, you got to be careful. So I often like to ask them, so listen, okay, you understand about this? I give them one at a time. At the beginning, especially, because it's overwhelming. So why do I do this, and why do I want to put in this time at the beginning? Because I want to get productivity levels to a standard that I want them to be at. I don't want to make this time time and energy and money investment and only result in frustration 4 or 5 months later, poor productivity, and nothing getting done. Listen, I know it happens to all of us, but I'm just letting you know, these are some of the things that you can prevent them. Now, to conclude, guys, it's been a 45-minute session. We smack on 45 minutes. Founded the company in 2007. I wanted to be a digital nomad. I wanted to work from online and travel the world. I had a chance to do that for a decade. I fell in love with the Philippines when I went there in 2006, not long after I started the company. We're a full service BPO agency. We've got 80 people in-house. We've hired well over 8,000 people for our client, for more than 3,000 clients. We've been doing this always. We're trying to game up always. We're advancing our technologies all the time, our processes, and everyone in the market and the whole industry is getting much more sophisticated in terms of clients even being clear about their expectations and what they can achieve with this. If you get outsourcing right, it really will be a competitive advantage for your business. I'll be very open to any questions if there are any. There might not be, I don't know. Maybe I'll just be talking too much. But by all means, you're welcome to connect with me directly if you want to as well. But look, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your participation, and all the very best in your adventures and journeys in finding the right Filipino talent. Take care. Cheers.
Remote Staff, a team to deliver your dream.